G'day and welcome back to my channel. Now, I've often talked about my Admiral Graf Spee, or as I like to call it, the admirable grapeseed. Anyhow, I've had one video on this when I wasn't feeling very well. I was sitting in a shed and quite miserable, and I kind of discussed how broken it was after the cat pushed it off a shelf. But I'm now going to do a video of the entire build because I've got the entire photo essay of everything I did to this kit over the last 4 years. So I thought I'd put that together in a bit of a slideshow, and I'll talk about things and I'll show you things, and then we'll get up to where I am today, because here's one I made before. Here's the Graf Spee as it is today. And as you can see, it looks nearly done. In fact, it's been sitting in my display cabinet. Here's a photo. And I've just said, oh, well, that looks good. I'll get round to it one day. I'll finish it off. It's all right. It's fine. Oops, it's very big. It looks good in there. I'll get into those last few things one day. Well, that day never bloody came, and it sat there and sat there. Then here I am packing because I'm moving to Brisbane. Everything else is boxed up, all ready to go carefully. The only things I haven't packed away are the finished kits on display in the display cabinet, because they will get taken out of that last minute. I'd like to sit there and admire them to the absolute last minute. I've got some special boxes and containers for travelling they will go into. So today I thought, oh, I'm ahead with the packing. I've got all this free time. What am I going to do? And then I remembered I had a whole lot of stuff that I hadn't added to this. There's photo etch and a few extra add-ons, which just take it up that extra notch. I mean, it's fine as it is. Most people have said put it in the competition the way it is. But honestly, I'm going to take it that bit extra. Anyhow, more of that later. What I'm going to show you now is the build process that I went through. We'll have a quick look at the instructions, and we'll talk about the kit, because this is a lovely kit. The Trumpeter Graf Spee literally knocks down, spits out, and chews up for breakfast, the Academy version. You can do a wonderful job with the Academy version, as there's been done online by a number of other really good modelers. And they've taken the Academy one, just about stripped everything off it, replaced it all aftermarket. There you go, 10% donor kit. But look, you can build the Trumpeter kit right out of the box, and it's fine. I mean, the only thing I've added here is a wood veneer deck, some metal barrels, and a little bit of photo etch. There's not much. I put some photo etch ores on, a couple of tiny bits. Really haven't added much photo etch at all. My photo etch, let me find it for you. Right, that's how much of my photo etch I've still got left. And as you can see, it's pretty well full. There's 2 sheets there. I've hardly used, I've probably used 10% of the photo etch that I bought, because this kit was so detailed. It's so lovely. Now, more of that later. Let's get on with it, and I'll show you my build of the Admiral Graf Spee, or as I like to call it, the admirable grapeseed. Now, I bought this kit back in May of 2014, and I got onto it straight away. It was beautiful, lovely kit, highly recommended by a lot of people. I'd bought the photo etch from Mark 1, which I thought would be fairly comprehensive, but there were a lot of problems with it, and I'll explain about that later. I bought the wood deck from Pontos, beautiful, beautiful wood deck. Highly recommend that part. The instructions for Graf Spee are very typical for Trumpeter. I always find them very clear, easy to follow, logical, at least for me. My sort of thing. Now you get a sprue map. So basically there's your hull. Now the hull is split so that you can do a waterline version. You've got the little waterline piece, which I use. So you could just put the upper hull on with the waterline, and that's very strong. The upper hull has got little strengthening bars built into it. So it's very good. You don't need any formers in there. You really don't need to add any extra like you have to do with the Academy kit. You have to basically buttress up the deck, otherwise it sags and goes horrible. But no, it's very good. It's nice and strong. You've got that waterline plate. If you want to go full hull, you admit the waterline plate and you put the hull in, which I've still got. I've still got the whole lower hull. I haven't thought of actually just re-adding the lower hull back to mine, but because I've got the waterline plate in, it's a bit of a project to pull it all apart. Decks in 3 pieces. Comes with a stand. It's pretty sort of ordinary kind of stand. You don't need that, of course, if you're going waterline. You do get photo etch rails in the kit, but they're just kind of generic. They're not of any specific length to do anything. So that's one of the reasons I went aftermarket, is to at least get some photo etch rails that were built for all the sections correct length. You get the lovely little photo etch little eagle here, which goes on the stern. That's quite nice. And you get little photo etch replacements for the insignia that goes on the bow. I'll talk about that later. You get flags. Yes, you get flags. You get all the decals for the Arado. And you even get, if you don't want to use the photo etch eagle here for the stern, you get a photo etch, you get a decal of the little eagle. There you go. And you get nice little decals there as well of the insignia, which goes on the bow. I've got a couple of different versions. I don't know why. Didn't do my research. Full sprue map. Every single sprue. Everything's numbered. Everything's clear and easy to see. And as you can see, there's quite a few parts in this kit. So that is quite lovely. It's impossible to not find something. I mean, it's well laid out, clear and logical. This is what I like about Trumpeter. Sometimes Trumpeter is a bit inaccurate, but quite frankly, with this kit, it looks pretty spot on. I doubt anybody can complain. The steps are logical, and they're also built in sub-assemblies. And I've had friends sort of comment about this with their aircraft, not their ships, their aircraft, in that, I build a page and that's it, that whole section's done. And that's how Trumpeter thinks, and I like it. At least it has been with the kits I've built. So you start by building up little bits and pieces, like you're making up various guns, and you're making up cranes and boats and searchlights. Those are torpedo launchers, and you're building your main guns, which is really good, because at this stage you can go straight in, add your metal barrels if that's what you want to do. And you can pretty well build each of these things up, have them ready. And that's terrific. Trumpeter does it that way. I like it that way. Your decks are all separate pieces, and I was able to actually put the veneer on these deck pieces before I even added them to the hull. So I had all these decks with their little wood veneer piece on, looking terrific before I even went there. Now, of course, if you are doing the wood deck over the top of the plastic deck, you have to scrape off the chains, the moulded on chains on the decks. Quite frankly, the wooden deck with this, sorry I don't have any photos, you just have to have my word for it. The wooden deck, the plastic deck, the way Trumpeter has moulded it, is great. You could paint that, wash it, it would look fantastic. As I said, you can build this kit out of the box. You really don't need to add anything. Even their barrels are very well done. But I wanted to try metal barrels. It was the first time I'd actually put metal barrels on a ship. All my other ships never had metal barrels. It was always plastic. And again, we move on. So now you have a section where you do, greebles for the front deck. Admittedly, I would leave these off till later. Anything that can get knocked off, I would quite often leave off. So I think I put everything on except for where the circles are. See the little circles? I mark there, these are things I'll put on later, because I'd be worried about knocking them off while I'm building the kit. So you work on, you've got the rear deck. Now here I'd replace with photo etch. That was the plan. But as I explained, things didn't quite go to plan. You've got the whole funnel assembly. Now, I did do a lot of photo etch on here because I had it in the photo etch options, the accessories that I'd bought. So all of this didn't use any of those D parts, and I photo etched up the lights, the searchlights, everything. But again, nothing wrong with building out of the kit. It actually probably looked just as good. By the time I painted all my photo etch, I sort of looked at it and thought, yeah, can't see any of it. You build up the superstructure. The front tower is quite beautiful. It's quite nicely made. But the only photo etch put here is I replaced the little radar. I had a photo etch radar, and that did look so much better. That looked really nice. Then you're getting into more of the midship superstructure and building that up. You can pretty well build this kit in order, even if you're putting the accessories and aftermarket on. Pretty well can just follow their instructions. So the only thing I do is leave off tiny little greebles, because I'll knock them off later. Rear radar assembly, and we start building up the midsection here and the rear deck. Here you're bringing some of your sub-assemblies in, which are your boats. Here you're building up lots of radar sub-assemblies, or range finding. Then it sort of all comes together. You've got whole sections made. Now I sort of did like this, except I left the boats off till last. I didn't put the guns on till later on. Again, if I could break it, knock it off, like the masts, I didn't put those on till later on. I made them up, had them ready. Anything I can break off, I will leave. I don't put them on. And then this is the rear superstructure here. That whole assembly went on together. And then you've got it all in bits. So you've got your rear superstructure, your fore superstructure, your main tower, and your whole funnel assembly. That's all done. Now I liquid taped this on here. Yeah, as you'll see later, I didn't glue it. I actually used this stuff called liquid tape, which is like a contact adhesive. But the beauty of it is you can remove it later and put it back on. Because with all the things that happened to me, as you'll find out as I go through the video, I needed to box this kit up a number of times. So it was pretty easy then to actually remove my superstructures and carefully pack them away so everything can go in the box. And there's your turrets and all your major, primary and secondary armament. They go on there. None of which you cement in from underneath and lock in place. All of these just click in, that's it, and they're friction fit, which is kind of handy because then it's fairly easy to take off. And, you can either set them, glue them in fixed positions, or as I've done, they're all loose. So they're easy enough to remove if you want to do some work on the kit. What have we got here? Section 14. Well, you're building this whole cradle assembly here for the lifeboats and putting in the catapult here for the Arado seaplane. Cranes go in. Now the cranes in the kit aren't bad, but you can do a lot to them to make them a lot better, and I did quite a bit of photo etch on those. You'll see that later. The davits and the few little boats, there's only really a couple of boats that get set here midships that have davits. Apart from that, it's a very clean ship, fore and aft. There's this little swing arm here thing. I think that's for retrieving the Arado once it's sort of come back from its reconnaissance and it's basically floating in the water beside the ship. And I think they swing that out to grab the Arado. Never really knew. If you know what that is, let me know. I think that's what it is. And the last page, there's really instructions. It looks like you get through them fairly quickly, but there's a lot going on. Now, they advise to put the your props and your screw shafts and everything on at the end. Now, it was me, I wouldn't do that if I built the hull. Now, if I built the lower hull, I would have done that early on because you really want to paint that whole thing red. Now, of course, they haven't even said cement the hull halves together, the upper hull and the lower hull. But if you were doing the full hull version, you may want to think about these two steps right at the beginning because you really would want to build your hull up. Now, there's a good reason for that. Over the years that my Graf Spee has sat there just waterline, it has warped. I don't know if that's because of the wood deck veneer that I put on or whatever. It literally has warped up. Bow and stern are about 2 to 3 mil off the table to the midships. So, yeah. If you were putting in the full hull, you're going to do the full hull version, quite frankly, you could certainly paint it separately because you can paint that all red and you've only got to then put your plimsoll line on, really easy. But I would certainly be gluing that to my hull way back in step 1 to make sure nothing warped out of shape, because I'd sort of thought now I could go full hull and all I'm going to do is basically scrape off the little joining tabs there. There's a big long tab that runs along, and I could put it up against my waterline version and bingo bongo, I'd have a full hull version. Well, no, I can't because it's warped a friggin' buggery, isn't it? You got a Arado here to build? I'll be doing that. I'll be building my Arado as part of this ongoing video series. And your stand, if you want to do that. Oh, I prefer the little brass pedestals myself. And that's it. That's the instructions in a nutshell. Quite nice. Nice to work with. I don't think there are any mistakes. I didn't find any problems at all working with the instructions. They were great. Now, I used a Pontos wood deck and I had no problems with it whatsoever. I followed those instructions. It also came with PE for parts on the midship decks. No trouble whatsoever. It went on perfectly. It was the first wooden deck I'd ever put on a ship and I had no issues with it all. It was really good. Really good. The only thing was, and as I'll show later, they had the plank length markings went the full length of the ship, which of course there's no way you would have that great big long plank that long. It'd be a bloody big tree. So I went back later and I once I'd actually put the decks on there and I noticed that I scored all the planking ends myself, which was a very quick and easy job to do with the X-Acto knife. And then I went through and gave the whole thing a wash to bring out all my join edges, and that gave a much more realistic look. But that was the only complaint I had. This even came with the chain, and also you received some basically some water depth decals. So that's terrific. Now the Mark 1 photo etch. Oh, I've got a lot to say about this, but I'm not going to bore you. I bought the wrong one. That's my fault. I was looking through. It was the first time I'd ever bought a complete set of photo etch for a kit. It really was the first time I'd been comprehensively working photo etch. I had been putting some of that on my tanks and a few other little things I was working on, but I'd never ever undertaken a ship with a full PE kit. I thought I was up to task, but quite frankly, as it was a challenge for me. I mean, now 4 or 5 years later, no problem at all. I breeze through this. I've done far more complex stuff. But you get two frets of PE. And that's quite good. Okay, so that's the good part. And that's from the Pontos kit. Yeah, that's the photo etch that came with the Pontos deck. Yeah, you got all the cradles to the boat. You got a whole lot of things. Actually, I didn't end up using because I was rather happy with what was moulded on my Trumpeter kit. But what I'd like to talk to you about, and this is my biggest beef, I believe they have improved this since. But this is all you get. You get pictures and numbers, and that's it. And obviously that is the Academy kit. So trying to build the Trumpeter kit. Now the reason I bought this not by accident, but by choice, is I looked at all the PE sets around and they're all incredibly expensive. And one of them, might have been White Ensign Models, their PE set was for either or Trumpeter or Academy. And not knowing then the difference between the plastic ships, I thought, oh, well, either set should do for all. The Mark 1 one was cheaper. I still think I paid about 3 shekels for it. So I thought, it should fit. Well, it doesn't, okay? It doesn't in a lot of places. A lot of things don't fit because the two plastic kits are very different, very different. But the annoying part is you don't have a booklet like you do in a lot of other sets of instructions. No, all you got is these pictures, which, you know, you've literally got to go through every single photo and then go back to instructions and make notes, and that's how you would do it. I didn't realise at the time. The only sort of time they really give you some detail is here's how to fold up the radar, and here's how to make the cradle there for the Urado, and it's catapult. I think that's the catapult for the Urado, yeah. And the order of the sequence. Well, can you see? Oh, you're not even seeing what I'm saying. Here's the cradle for the Urado and the catapult, and then there's the sequence of all those little pieces that fit underneath the funnel. Which I'll show you later I did. Because it does, I mean, this stuff is quite nice and it does come up quite well. But all you've got are these photos to go by and you really have to figure it out. I mean, I'll be doing this. This is the Urado and this is all the photo etch for it. So that should help, and the catapult that it's on. So there's some nice stuff in here, but you've really got to dig through and figure it out. What I did in the end is I think I found Edward or something, or someone else's photo etch, that had comprehensive instructions. It probably was Edward. And I downloaded their instruction sheet to see where they suggested adding their photo etch to this kit. And then what I did was I hunted in the Mark 1 photo etch for comparable parts. And that's how I worked out what to put on. Because this is useless Mark 1. It is absolute rubbish. Having the photos, so there's no logical order, there's just pics of the ship, and you know, and I think there were a couple of mistakes as well. I think I even found a couple of the letters were wrong. So yeah, subsequently, and I have seen and I have bought another Mark 1 photo etch complete set for my for the Tamiya Prince of Wales. Now that's chalk and cheese. Is it Prince? I think it's for Prince of Wales, something like that. And or it might be for the Queen Elizabeth. I think it's for the Queen Elizabeth warship that I have. Now, in that one, it is a booklet, and it goes through in a logical order, and it fits and matches the parts, and it is the one for the kit. But quite frankly, put your teeth in, Harry, if you're building the Graf Spee and you want to super detail it, or buy the correct super detail set and spend the money. I mean, I only saved about a shekel. I think the ones I was looking at were like $40 or $50. That's 4 or 5 shekels in my money. I bought this for $30, 3 shekels in my money. And quite frankly, for the money I saved, I created so much grief for myself, I would never do that again. And I haven't since. I've bought the right photo etch for the right kit. Spend the money. Believe me, it's worth it. All right, well, let's get on with the build. I started the build by putting the wood decks on. And I had no trouble at all. The Pontos wood decks were so easy to put on and so easy to fit. Then I started with my first PE of doing tiny little hatches, and they were terrible. I had so much trouble with them. It was before I had my wax pencil and my slow setting CA glue, but if you watch my videos you know about that. But the deck was beautiful. I loved it. It went on so well, it was so easy. And I started adding more of the optional parts that were available in the Pontos kit because it came with that photo etch. And there I'm putting on the torpedo launchers. It was one of the first sort of plastic parts I added to the deck. Lovely. I worked out my colour palette. I always do this with kits. I worked out all the shades of grey I needed. And believe me, I needed all those colours. I put metal barrels in the turrets and they came up a treat. They were so easy. Photo etch for the turrets actually fitted and it was really good, even though it was wrong photo etch for the wrong kit. But I was really happy with the result. Painted those up and they looked a treat. I was so pleased I had gone with the metal barrels. They're really easy to put in. I mean, I've shown how to do that in other videos. I did some washing and weathering, sort of streaking down from my portholes, and more of that later. The secondary armament, I put the metal barrels in those, and I added a little bit of photo etch. There was a whole stack of them. I had built an entire sort of card assembly there so that I could spray paint them, build them up. They came up a treat. They really looked nice, especially with up against the first primary armament there. I drilled out all my portholes. That was fun. First time I'd ever done that on a ship. Never done that before. It was well worth it. Photo etch parts I'd put on the searchlights. They really added some detail for them. Now I put a lot of work into this. This is the photo etch that went on the cranes. Yeah, they were well worth doing. I tried making photo etch ladders. Had a lot of difficulty. The first time I'd really worked with something that tiny and fiddly, and in the end I sort of really gave up on that, but I'll come back to that later. I did do all the photo etch there on the funnel, and that was fairly easy to do. It came up so well. I added photo etch to all the little boats and the launchers. That really improved the detail of those. And then I built again my trusty piece of cardboard. I did a whole flotilla there and painted them all up. There were a few sinkholes in the boats that I needed to fill later on, but that was all done. I worked again with some more streaking effects and rusting effects on the hull. They came up well. The rest of the parts I sprayed on the sprue, their base colour, and then I added the parts. Put the chains that came with Pontos kit on the front deck, and they look great. They really look good. And there's the funnel once I put all that photo etch on there and basically painted and weathered it. But it all came up well. Here I'd scored the deck to get the cross plank, the plank ends. There's the photo etch for the radar. That was well worth having. Gee, it looks so much better. And then once that front tower was all assembled and painted, I was really happy with the result. There's those photo etch ladders I started to put in, and I had so much trouble, I kept breaking them. Anyhow, that's where the kit got to. After working on it for about over a year, I had done all that work, and I was pretty happy with the result. I was really chuffed and pleased with myself and thought, yep, this is good. But then I needed to move. I moved house and moved to another place, and I brought a cabinet to put it in, a debt loft. It didn't fit. See? Bow sticking out. Bloody thing wouldn't fit. So I sat it on the bookcase, the intention to keep finishing it, but then something really terrible happened, and there she is. That's terrible. The cat decided she'd have a play with it, and she knocked it off the bookcase, smashed it all up into bits and pieces, so I put it away in storage for another day. Fast forward now to 2018. I finally got back to this kit. As you can see, I'm trying to put the red hull on there, but it doesn't fit, as I explained. But I found all the missing bits, and I scratch built a lot of the yard arms and booms and things, and a bit of the mast that was broken, and straightened up a few bits that were all twisted and mangled. And I got there. I put the davits on and added the lifeboats midship, which I hadn't done before. And I worked my way through, and I was getting really pleased. I thought, yes, this kit is starting to look really good. Looking really nice. So, everything was on, everything looked so much better. In fact, I'd improved on it from when I'd worked on it originally. So I was quite pleased with all that. This is the point where I used the liquid tape, and there it is, micro liquid tape, and I used that to attach the superstructure and some of the other parts. And then I put it away in my cabinet because basically it was too big to fit anywhere else, and that's where it sat, and that's where it sat until today. So here we are some 4 years later, and the Graf Spee really hasn't been finished. Well, it's sort of been in this stage for about 3 years, or 2 to 3 years. But because I could only put it away in my display cabinet when I wasn't working on it, because it's just too big at that stage to put anywhere else, it'd sit there and I just completely forget about it. it looked fine. But finally I've got an old jeweler's little display cabinet, just a small one. It fits underneath my modelling bench. Here's a pic. And that's thanks to Trevor. Good on you, Trevor. He found that for me and said, could you use this for your ships? And it's there under my bench so I can quickly drop in any large ship that I'm working on without having to resort to putting them out in the display cabinet where I'll forget about them. So now that it's here on my workbench, and despite everything else that's going on in my life, because I am pretty busy moving house and all the rest of it, I'm going to spend this week before I move, because everything else is packed up, working on the Graf Spee, because it can stay out. It'll just be one of the last things put away in a travel case to gently put in my car to go all the way to Brisbane. So I've got some photo etch here from Mark 1. A lot of it I just didn't use. Now that includes all the railings, which should be the correct size. Although the Mark 1 PE I bought was for the Academy kit, and mine is the Trumpeter, of course. So I have had a few issues where things just didn't fit or weren't needed, because the Trumpeter kit is infinitely better than the Academy kit, far more detail. So I didn't use a lot of the PE, really, hardly at all. So I'll now have a look where I could put some ladders, where there might be a little bit of extra detail I can add. I'm going to go through my instructions and the available PE and make some notes and work out what I can do to finally finish this kit off. Obviously, we'll do all the deck railings, and they'll go in, and they hopefully shouldn't be too difficult. But then I'm going to have a look at some other things. There's some parts here that could improve this. This actually isn't mine. This is Becca's. Becca had a Graf Spee. He had the Academy one, and that's the little aircraft of his, which lazily I had. But I've got I have the Trumpeter parts to build my own little Arado. So I will be doing that. I'll be making my own Arado, and I'll paint it up, and away I go. I've got a few little PE handrails here that I'd made previously, but they look in very sad shape. I know I'd chickened out at one point, and I'd put the plastic stairs in. So I might see if they can't be just sort of lifted off, and I'll try and make the PE ones up, because my skill levels are obviously a lot better than when I first started this many years ago. All right, well, that's enough waffling about what we're going to do. I'm going to get on with that. But this video has already run a fair length, and I really need to take my time to do all the changes. That's probably going to take me a week with the amount of things I've got happening. So we'll end the video here. Which basically gets you up to speed, which I've never done before. I've never shown you all the stages I went through, all the work that went into the kit, so I hope you enjoyed that. But this week, I will work on the Graf Spee, because it's all I've got out. Everything else is packed. And I'll get, hopefully, all the little PE parts and get that little Arado built up, and just check I haven't missed any plastic. I don't think I have, but we will go through the whole instructions, and I will double check everything. And then I can show you what I'm doing, so it'll be a bit of a video about putting on deck rails, and then that'll be it. Be grand finale. Yes, I will show you the Graf Spee in its final completed self. I don't know, I'm a bit doubtful. Every time I try to finish something, it never happens on time. Now, enough of that. I'll leave you here. We'll go out with just a few nice little snaps of where I am now, some nice little close-ups. And then we'll come back again in a week's time, and I'll show you where I've got up to with the Graf Spee. Hopefully it's finished. All right, it's goodbye from Australia, and it's hooroo from Harry Houdini.